Let us continue with our lesson, and the next thing is to have a base URL. So we need to find a place that where we can store this base URL, or else you can also directly pass it over here and create some constant variable and pass it, but that's the not recommended way. So the next thing is we can also create some variable, constant variable over here, and we can just call it whenever we are calling that one. But the best way to do that one is we will be creating in our Gradle build. So let's go to the Gradle build, and inside this we have a build type. We have a build type in the release. Also, let's create a build type for a debug. Debug build type, and inside this we can also create. So this will be used for our debug APK, and this will be used for a release version. So what I'll do is I'll just copy the whole thing from here to here, and for the debug build, let's say as minify as false. That's okay. Let's keep everything as same, and let's create our variable for our base URL. So let's go back to the build Gradle for our app, and let's go down over here and let's create a variable for our build, and I can say config field. So build config field is passed a string type, string name, and a string value. So we have to pass a 3 parameter over here, and let's set over here. And the first type of this is the data type. It should be of a string, string. And the second parameter that we have to pass is a after comma, let's say we have to pass a string type of name. The name would be of let's say, sorry, not outside of this inverted comma. So that would be of a string name. So name, let's give as a base underscore URL. So base URL, and the third part of the parameter is a value. So the value for our base URL. So just that should be of I think the base URL that we have. Let's go over here and we can copy this one, or else what we can do is we can also copy, we can also set the IP address. So just copy, for the sake of now, just copy this one and just go over here and just paste it over here. And we need to provide some escape sequence because we have a / over here, and that may cause a problem. So in order to escape this one, we need to pass an escape sequence of, let's say we pass escape sequence over here, and also for the last one we need to pass an escape sequence. So for that, let's create another escape sequence, and I think that should be fine. So we have provided over here for this one and also for this one, the escape sequence. And instead of to-do.test, let's pass the IP address. So IP address would be 192.168. I think it's 10.10. So the IP address of our server. For the demo or a debug site, we can copy the same thing over here and pass it to the release build. So for the release build, we will be using a different URL. So it may be this one. So we can just copy this one, and I think that I just minimize. Let's go and paste it over here. I think inside from here to here, and that should be todo.com or any of your public URL that you want to set for the release version. So this should be used in the release version, and this will be used for our debug version. So we have successfully set our program, the build config field, which will be using a base URL. And whenever we call this method whenever we call this networking and we need to pass a base URL, at that time we can pass this build config base URL. So I think that's all for this lesson, and don't worry, for now we just have configured our base URL in our build Gradle build over here in the config file, and later when we actually go and make call this function, then we will, and at that time you will know that how we can make use of this one. So let's meet up in the next lecture and we'll continue with our lesson in the next video. Till then, have a great day.